Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, I'm doing a recap and review for Series 12, Episode 8, The Haunting of Via Diodati. The episode opens near Lake Geneva in June of 1816, in the middle of the famous Year Without a Summer, and the famous writers of their day, Lord Byron, Dr. Polidori, Mary Shelley, and her sister Claire Clairmont, are entertaining themselves with ghost stories while a terrible storm rages outside. But soon the Doctor and fam knock on the front door and beg to be let in from the storm, with the Doctor briefly trying to use her psychic paper before realizing that it apparently doesn't work in the rain. After being let in, the TARDIS team are excited to be witnessing the night that would inspire Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein, and the Doctor gives her companions strict rules to not mention Frankenstein, not interfere, and no snogging Lord Byron. However, the Doctor soon realizes that something is wrong, as Percy Shelley, Mary's soon-to-be husband, is nowhere to be found, and there is little to no writing going on between these great minds. Instead, the group teaches them a dance, and while learning the steps, they are each treated to an earful of gossip, as we learn that Mary and Percy are not married, despite her using his name, and Byron is separated from his wife, and is now in a relationship with Miss Clairmont, although he doesn't seem to be terribly interested in her. After trying and failing to get everyone to start writing, the Doctor begins to examine the house as she is getting a bad vibe, while Graham goes searching for a bathroom, and after asking the maid for directions, with the TARDIS strangely not translating her answer, some strange activity starts to happen, with vases smashing against walls, hands coming out of paintings, and ghost people appearing and disappearing. Meanwhile, Yaz comes across Miss Clairmont trying to break into Lord Byron's office, and after she confesses that she was looking for letters to learn of Lord Byron's true intentions with her, Yaz admits that she too has a person who is more of an enigma with every answered question, giving those people who are hoping for a Yaz and Doctor relationship a little more to run with. And as Yaz comforts Miss Clairmont, she briefly sees a ghostly figure. As the Doctor looks around the house, Lord Byron attempts to flirt with her using his own poetry, which the Doctor quickly shuts down. And after Lord Byron tells her that Percy Shelley is currently indisposed, the Doctor tells him that she has a feeling that the house that they're in is unrelentingly evil. Back in the parlor, Ryan is showing off how bad he is at the piano when he accidentally insults Dr. Polidori and gets challenged to a duel. But before Polidori can retrieve his pistol, the creepy hand crawls into the room and attacks Ryan, strangling him. But with the help of Mary, the Doctor, and the valet, they manage to get the hand off and destroy it. Weirdly, the Doctor tastes what remains of the skeleton hand, and determines that it's from the 15th century, which prompts Lord Byron to admit that he has a skeleton in his chambers from that time period, as part of a collection of war relics that he has to remind him of his own mortality. And upon inspection, they see that it is missing its hands. Although the Doctor does find a plumed hat from the Battle of Waterloo that she quite likes, and I'm sure it will be part of some sort of collectible figure eventually. Asking again about Percy Shelley, Mary tells the Doctor that when the storm started, Percy had a vision of a figure over the lake, and they all assumed that he went down to his chalet by the shore. So Yaz and Ryan agree to accompany Mary to go and find him, but they soon discover that the stairs of the house are turning in on themselves, and they cannot escape. Meanwhile, Graham is babysitting Dr. Polidori, who is now sleeping by the fire, as we were told earlier that Polidori is prone to sleepwalking. But this bizarre situation can only be explained by a deleted scene, because we never see what leads up to Graham being told to watch him sleep. But at any rate, Graham comes face to face with two ghosts, before Dr. Polidori rises from his slumber and walks straight through the wall and out of the room. With everyone trapped in their own part of the house, the Doctor uses the fireplace to talk, and after Graham tells her that he's lost Polidori, Polidori suddenly walks through the wall and into the room where Byron, Claire, and the Doctor are. But as the Doctor inspects Polidori with her sonic, Byron again hits on her right in front of Miss Clairmont, which really pisses both of them off. The Doctor discovers that there is some sort of perception filter over the whole house, which is forcing them to see walls where they're not there. So, knowing that they need to trust their memory over their eyes, the groups are able to move through the house once again, and Mary frantically runs to check on her sleeping baby, but she is horrified when she reaches his crib to find more skeleton bones. As Dr. Polidori wakes from his slumber, the doctor thanks him for helping them find the way out of the room, and she starts to hypothesize that maybe the year without a summer was not caused by volcanic activity as has been theorized, but instead by something that came to Earth and caused a major disruption. Then, at that moment, she sees the figure over the lake from Shelley's vision, only it's not a vision, it's a traveler moving through time, and as it finally achieves what it's been attempting, the figure appears inside the house, and it's revealed to be the lone Cyberman. The Cyberman asks, "Are you the Guardian?" before the doctor barricades the door and Yaz and Graham start flipping out because of Jack's warning. Do not let it have what it wants at all costs. And what it wants is the Guardian. The doctor tells them all, including Mary Shelley, about the Cybermen being altered humans. But for some reason, this one is different and unfinished, and clearly looking for something that is hidden here. So, the doctor decides to go after it by herself. And when her companions complain that she shouldn't go alone, she delivers a great little speech and tells them that she will not lose anyone else to the Cybermen, in a moment that calls back to Bill Potts, Danny Pink, and Adric, and so many others. So that was really a great moment. As the Cyberman makes his way through the house, he comes across the valet and the maid, and he kills them both. But as he finds Mary's baby, he spares it, telling the young boy, "You will be like us." But soon, the doctor confronts the Cyberman, taunting him, which leads him to become very irritated with her, as a result of him not yet having the classic emotional inhibitor that defines the cyber race. The Cyberman attempts to use his weapon on the doctor, but his jump through time has depleted his energy reserves. However, the Cyberman uses the storm outside to harness the lightning, and he uses it to recharge himself in another nod to Frankenstein. Meanwhile, Mary, Ryan, Yaz, and Byron come across a room in the house full of frantic writing on the walls, and while it makes no sense to them, they can tell that it's Percy Shelley's handwriting. The Cyberman scans the doctor and determines that she is not the Guardian that he's looking for, and that the Cyberium must have picked someone else, while at the same time, Graham and Miss Claremont find Percy Shelley hiding in the cellar, and he reveals that it is him that the Cyberman is looking for. The doctor runs from the Cyberman and regroups with everyone else, finding Mary's baby unharmed in the process, and she tells everyone to hide, as history is vulnerable tonight and none of them were supposed to die here. The doctor talks to Percy and learns that it has been him who has been changing the house around in an attempt to keep the Cyberman away from him. And as the doctor reads his mind, she learns that he found the Cyberium, which is cyber technology that houses the knowledge of the whole cyber race, in the lake while he was on a walk, and it soon entered his body and took him over. Ever since that happened, he has been invisible to the other members of the house, forcing him to cause the strange ghostly apparitions and the broken vase, and his mind has been filled with numbers and symbols that he has been frantically writing down. The doctor tells him that the Cyberium is what the Cyberman wants, as it contains important data and strategy decisions that the Cybermen will need in the future, and someone took it and sent it back through time to try and change that future. But it is burning through Shelley's mind, and it will kill him if it's not removed. So, the doctor tells Percy to stop fighting, and to let the Cyberman take it back, which horrifies her companions after what Jack told them, with Ryan even going so far as to say that Shelley's life isn't as important as the billions that will die if the Cybermen get what they want. But the doctor tells them that words matter, and that Percy Shelley's words will inspire others for centuries. One death, one ripple, and history will change in a blink. And the history that they know might not exist anymore, which means that they wouldn't exist either. She is given a choice: save the poet or save the universe, and she complains that sometimes even she can't win. But that's what it means to be the doctor. She has to make those decisions, and they are never easy. It's a great, great moment for Jodie as the 13th Doctor. The Cyberman arrives and attempts to get the Cyberium, but he tells them that the host must be executed for the Cyberium to be extracted, and Mary does her best to appeal to the Cyberman morality, asking him if he is many men, a composite of parts, and tells him that he has compassion since he spared her son. But it doesn't work because he is a bastard, and he tells her that he only spared her son because the baby was weak and sickly. To save Shelley, the doctor accelerates his mind to the moment of his death, tricking the Cyberium into leaving his body, but before the Cyberman can get it, it enters her body instead. However, after the Cyberman threatens to use his ship to split reality itself and destroy the planet, the doctor admits that she can't win, and she gives up the Cyberium to the Cyberman, who quickly disappears. With her companions asking what it now means, since the Cyberman got the Cyberium, the doctor tells them that she has put the future into the gravest danger. But if saving Shelley was step 1 of the plan, step 2 is fixing the mess that she created in step 1, by finding him in the future and stopping him from rebuilding the Cyber Army. She gets Shelley to give them the symbols and numbers that he wrote down from the Cyberium, because they are likely going to need them. And saying goodbye to them all, she tells Mary and Percy to not lose hope. As they head back to the TARDIS, Graham asks the doctor where the 2 ghosts of the little girl and the maid fit into all of this, and her and the companions look on with confusion as they have no idea what he is talking about, meaning that those 2 ghosts might have been real. And for the record, I'm not convinced that the skeleton hands were explained by the Cyberium either, as we know that it was moving the house around and making Shelley invisible, but it was never shown to reanimate the skeleton of a 15th century soldier to attack Ryan. So, it's a little confusing as to why that happened. As the episode ends, the doctor tells her companions that they don't need to come with her, but they insist on helping her with step 2 of her plan, and they use Shelley's numbers as coordinates to determine where they will head next. So, it's getting a bit repetitive at this point, but this episode once again continues the trend of these episodes getting better and better, and I am pleasantly surprised at the direction that the second half of the series has gone in. The episode was very similar to the 11th Doctor story Hide, only with a much better ending, and it really succeeded in being very spooky at times. None of the companions really felt left out in this episode, although Ryan played the smallest role, and the supporting cast were all well acted and compelling. Even Percy Shelley, who was in the episode for the least amount of time, had a very commanding screen presence. The scenes with Byron hitting on the Doctor were especially funny, as this was the first time that we've really seen the Doctor looked at in a sexual way, and it's surprising that no men have come on to her at this point so far. And speaking of coming on to the Doctor, the conversation that Yaz had with Miss Claremont has set the internets on fire with speculation that Yaz is in love with the Doctor. And while I personally do not care much for that storyline, and I don't necessarily think that Yaz was talking about the Doctor in a romantic way, I would not be surprised if the 2 of them shared a kiss before the series is over. But the biggest positive about this episode was by far the acting of Jodie, as she has really come into her own as the Doctor. And while I would still argue that she has not had her big speech yet that makes you absolutely realize that the Doctor has arrived, she had 2 moments in this episode that really hit home. First off, when she's telling her companions not to follow her because she doesn't want to lose anyone else to the Cybermen, man, that really hit hard. And you can see the pain in her eyes as she says it, like she's reliving every companion that she's ever lost in that moment, and it was superb. And second, when she is angrily confronting her companions about her choice of saving the poet or saving the universe. It was very reminiscent of the Time Lord Victoria's speech, as she declared that the dynamic between her and the companions was mountainous, with her at the summit, making the decisions that no one else can. It came across as very aggressive, and coming from the Doctor that has always seemed the most amiable of all of them, it was really quite jarring, and added a sort of tortured sorrow to the Doctor that we haven't seen since the Capaldi days. Overall, it's definitely one of the top performances that Jodie has turned in so far, and I'm excited to see where she brings this in the finale. Now, as for what didn't quite work, my biggest complaint was actually just the inclusion of the character Mary Shelley, as she is a companion of the 8th Doctor in the Big Finish audios, and a good one at that. And while I didn't need an overt reference to the fact that they will travel together in the future, a subtle "I'll see you again soon" would have more than sufficed. Also, I found it a bit troubling that they seem to imply that Mary Shelley only wrote Frankenstein because of her experience with the Doctor, as in the episode she doesn't seem terribly interested in writing, and then she gets these ideas of altered men comprised of multiple people brought to life by lightning, all from the Cybermen, and not from her own imagination, which seems like a little bit of an insult. After the pains that they went through in episode 2 to erase Ada Lovelace's memories, you'd think that they would have done the same to Mary Shelley to preserve her accomplishments for herself, and that even would have solved the 8th Doctor conundrum as well, but for some reason they chose not to. This is made even more troubling by the fact that Percy Shelley had his mind accelerated to the point of his own death, and he even tells the Doctor at the end of the episode that he is very troubled by what he's seen. And still, the Doctor lets him keep those experiences and doesn't wipe his memory. It just comes across as very strange, considering that they made such a big deal about it in episode 2. I honestly feel bad for the Shelleys. Lastly, I mentioned it earlier, but I'm quite sure that no explanation is given for the skeleton coming to life, and please correct me if I'm wrong. While the vase smashing and the robed ghostly figure were made to be Shelley, and the stairs and rooms folding in on themselves were made to be the Cyberium, what caused the skeleton to come to life? And if it was the Cyberium, what was the point of doing that, as it didn't really do anything to prevent itself from being found? If it was connected to the ghostly women that Graham saw, that's fine, but with no explanation given, it just felt like a loose plot thread, similar to the missing scene that sets up Dr. Polidori sleeping by the fire. Perhaps this episode went a bit too long and they had to cut a few things out. But overall, it doesn't really affect my liking of the episode too much, so I won't harp on it anymore. So, for another solid episode that dipped into horror while still giving us a classic Doctor Who adventure, I'll give The Haunting of Via Diodati 8 Lone Cybermen out of 10. So, that was my review of Series 2, Episode 8. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments if you feel like I left something out. I put out new videos every week, so be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And let me know if you have an idea for a compilation that you'd like to see in the future. Until then, thank you so much for being my companions on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.